Well, thanks very much, Madeline. It's wonderful to be here with Madeline and Josh and with the Premier. Congratulations. And with Amber Jade, who I met with this morning already, our first meeting as Energy Ministers, and we are both raring to go to make sure that Western Australia continues to be absolutely central to Australia's decarbonisation journey, and indeed a future made in Western Australia and a future made in Australia. And today we're making three big announcements for Western Australia, three announcements which each of them in their own right are a significant step forward for Western Australian jobs, for Western Australian investment and for Western Australian carbon reduction. Firstly, I'm pleased to announce the results of the first Capacity Investment Scheme tender for Western Australia. The Capacity Investment Scheme, a Commonwealth underwritten scheme which will ensure we get to 82% renewables across Australia, of course has a special role to play in Western Australia with a separate market, a separate grid, and will support the efforts of the Western Australian Government. And Western Australia is one of the world-leading jurisdictions when it comes to big batteries. Here we are at one, and of course we've been to Collie on several occasions seeing the progress there. Today I'm announcing that the Federal Government will support 4 new big batteries in Western Australia, at Boddington, at Merredin, at Mouchet and at Waroona. Now these will support 654 megawatts of capacity. To put that in perspective, we asked for 500 megawatts. Such was the strength of the bid from Western Australian companies that we've been able to support 654 megawatts. And this will support 600,000 Western Australian homes for 4 hours. Now this is absolutely vital for ensuring reliability of our energy system as we undertake the renewable transformation. Importantly, these projects will be scheduled for 2027. Western Australia needs more electricity now, not in 2037 and the 2040s when nuclear plans may or may not actually become a reality, but now. And that's what we're getting on with. And also, I just want to say that one of our key assessment criteria is not just energy and value for money, but including in value for money community benefit. And I'm delighted that the communities that will host these batteries will see strong community benefits. From the 4 projects, $145 million in community benefit funding, $712 million in local content, and a $63.5 million boost to local employment in Western Australian economies. So of course we want to see local content across Australia and more Australian content in the broad, and of course local community benefit funds supporting local communities, and that's important. The second announcement I'm making today is that Western Australia will be home to Australia's first green hydrogen initiative supported by our very important Hydrogen Head Start program. Green hydrogen is really the only game in town when it comes to ultimately supporting the Australian and international industries as they move in the longer term to get off gas. And Australia is one of the few places in the world which can be home to a serious green hydrogen industry. Now there are some people who celebrate and luxuriate in the difficulties in setting up a green hydrogen industry. It is tough. The economics do need work. This is early stages. There will be setbacks and delays, but that doesn't make it unimportant. It makes it more important that governments work together to make these projects a reality. So the project from Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners in Murchison will receive up to $814 million in Hydrogen Head Start support. Importantly, we've designed Hydrogen Head Start to support success, so that money will only flow when they are producing. But it enables them to make that important investment decision. Now this is a project of Western Australian significance, and frankly global significance as well. 3,600 construction jobs, 600 ongoing jobs. I've heard the Premier say once or twice he supports a future made in Western Australia. This is what it looks like. This is what it means in reality. And this stage 1 of this project will create 900,000 tonnes of green ammonia, which, to put it in context, is equivalent to roughly half of the ammonia we produce in Australia from fossil fuels today. Just this one project in green hydrogen, replacing half the ammonia from fossil fuels that are produced today. And as I said, this is actually a globally significant project as well, with 3,600 tonnes a day of green hydrogen To put it in context, at the moment, around the world, there are 100,000 tonnes a year of green hydrogen being produced. So this will be noticed not just in Western Australia, this will be noticed by governments and investors around the world, this project. It really confirms Western Australia on the global map when it comes to green hydrogen. The final announcement, I'm almost there, there's so much to announce, is that the Albanese Labor government will be supporting Simcoa, Australia's only silicon producer, in their efforts to decarbonise. And we are funding $39.8 million to see them remove coal from the production of silicon at their facility here in Western Australia. This will reduce their emissions by 89%. It's the equivalent of taking 30,000 cars off the road, and it will importantly ensure security for those jobs, because as consumers and investors around the world demand to see decarbonisation plans, if they're going to continue to invest and buy from companies like Simcoa need to be able to show the world that they are decarbonising. So this locks in those jobs, 220 jobs there at Simcoa. So this is a good announcement. We need silicon for this transition. It's vital in solar panels. We want to see a future made in Australia for solar panels, and we want to see Australian silicon being used in that, and we want to see that silicon decarbonised. So I'm delighted that we're supporting Simcoa in that investment to see their emissions come down by 89% and take coal out. So that's probably enough from me for the moment. I'm going to hand to the Premier, and then we'll be back to take questions.
Thank you very much, Chris. It's great to be here once again at the Kwinana Big Battery. This is the site of where we are really putting rubber on the road when it comes to our clean energy transition. And today represents a giant step forward in our clean energy transition. This funding from the government under its capacity investment scheme and its Hydrogen Head Start program are absolutely vital as part of Western Australia's Made in WA plan, but also in terms of our green energy future. This represents the single biggest step that we will take to ensuring that Western Australia moves forward as part of our clean energy transition. What it will do is enable us to be out of coal by 2030, and that means that not only will be the first state in Australia to be completely out of coal, we will be the only state by 2030 to be out of coal. And this is part of our very important mission to ensure that we decarbonise the Western Australian economy, but by becoming a renewable energy powerhouse, particularly through the Murchison project, we will help the economies of the Southeast Asian region to decarbonise as well. We are so excited by this announcement today. It represents the next important stage. As you know, we've already developed stage 1 and 2 of the Kwinana Big Battery. We've got the Collie Big Battery being constructed at the moment, with the first stage of that commissioning to take place in August this year. All around Western Australia at the moment, you see green energy projects coming to shape. You see energy storage projects coming on stream. And I'm particularly excited in this announcement around the support for new solar production facilities, which will ensure that we continue to build out the resilience of our renewable energy fuel stock. It means cleaner, affordable and reliable energy for WA households and businesses. It means that when people switch on the lights during the day or in the evening, they know that they are part of a clean energy revolution which is taking over the world and which Western Australia is a leader of. This project is massive. The first stage alone of the Murchison project, as the Minister has just outlined, represents a half of all of Australia's fossil fuel ammonia production. So that means we are starting to move towards that opportunity to export our ammonia, which is an important next step for a lot of countries that use modern coal-fired power stations, because they'll be able to blend that ammonia into their existing coal-fired power facilities and reduce their emissions immediately. And this is Western Australia not only decarbonising our economy, it's decarbonising the economies of the rest of the world. As we know, WA is powering the nation when it comes to our economy. The clean energy transition is an important part of that. And this will create not only thousands of jobs today, it will provide and secure the jobs of the future. So this is continuing to make sure that we've got great Western Australian jobs, a resilient economy, and we are undertaking our clean energy transition and becoming a renewable energy powerhouse. Now I'll hand you over to the new Energy Minister, Jade Sanderson.
Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Minister Bowen. It is very exciting to be here in Kwinana and very much welcoming these announcements by the federal government. We know that it is a partnership, that to decarbonise our industry, to decarbonise our economy, state and Commonwealth governments have to work together and work closely together with industry. This is a clear indication and demonstration that the federal government is prepared to do the heavy lifting when it comes to investing into these emerging technologies. The Murchison investment, particularly with green hydrogen, is going to be a significant game changer for green hydrogen around the country, not just in Western Australia. Green hydrogen is an emerging industry, and emerging industries need government support, and that's exactly what the federal government is doing with this industry, and will help really supercharge our efforts to decarbonise our economy. The battery storage facility here is essential to harnessing all of that extra solar power that we generate in Western Australia. Western Australians have taken up solar power with gusto. We have significant amounts in Western Australia, and we need to be able to harness that, and that's what this does. The announcement around Simcoa is also significant for our manufacturers. The irony is that those parts that are required to produce solar panels are also really heavy emitters in their manufacturing phase. So this is going to ensure that the supply chain for our renewable energies is also decarbonised. Really important announcements, massive investment from the Commonwealth. That is exactly how we need to work together to decarbonise what is heavy industry and a resources industry economy with a partnership and investment, and I very much welcome that from the Commonwealth. I will hand you over to Minister Bowen for questions.
Thanks very much, Emma Jade. I'm going to take easy questions. The Premier's taking hard questions. Over to you.
You mentioned the difficulties scaling up green hydrogen. Is it just reality that therefore it's hard to put a timeline on it and a target date for scaling up?
So we have a national hydrogen plan which has been agreed between the Commonwealth and all the states and territories, which does have lays out a roadmap, and actually the indications are that roadmap is by and large consistent with the national hydrogen plan. The investment that we're seeing, yes, you're going to have the odd setback, you're going to have some delays, but still it's consistent with what's laid out in the national hydrogen plan. As I said, this is based on success. So we're scheduling this to start work in 2026-2027 in terms of the next steps. But as I said at the outset, if you're serious about helping decarbonise industry, then you're serious about green hydrogen. I mean, when I talk to my international counterparts, the German minister, for example, the 1, 2 and 3 top item they want to talk about is how Australia's going with green hydrogen, because they want to buy it. And we want to sell it to them. And so this investment is important. I am looking forward to going to Geraldton in a minute to look at the next steps. But this is a good day and a good step forward for Western Australian green hydrogen.
Does there need to be a plan B? Is there a plan B if green hydrogen just can't work because the science isn't worked out yet?
Well, the science is worked out with respect.
The
science is very clear. The commercial work has more to do. That's why we're doing Hydrogen Head Start. That's why we're doing the hydrogen tax incentive, because as others have said, when you've got an industry starting out from scratch and it's got great potential benefit for the country, it's perfectly not just appropriate but vital for governments to lean in and help industry make that a reality. So that is what we're doing, and we're going to keep working on it. Again, by others I mean Peter Dutton, luxuriates when something is hard to do, celebrates when a project is delayed. We say, okay, we'll just get on with it and work together to make these jobs and the investment a reality.
What is happening with those other, I think there were those original 6 projects in the Hydrogen Head Start
Yep.
program? You must be disappointed that some of them even down here, I believe, they have pulled out.
It's not, no, they haven't pulled out, but we've got a short list of 6.
Are you saying they're going to
if you let me, I'll answer the question. We've got a short list of 6. I'm announcing the first successful project today. I'm not making further announcements about other projects, successful or unsuccessful. We are in ongoing discussions with other bidders. But today, Murchison is the first cab off the rank that has received our support, been through all the very rigorous process. We don't do this lightly. You know, the government, the arena board, puts these projects through very significant paces to ensure it's going to stack up. What I am in a position to do is to say Murchison today stacks up and will get our support. We'll continue to work with the other projects. Some will work and some won't. Some will proceed. It's a short list of 6. It's not a final list, right? So it won't be 6 final projects. It won't be 0. It won't be 1. I'll have further announcements on other days.
Is the government kind of open-minded to other outside programs or projects coming into that program?
So, well, this is round 1 of Hydrogen Head Start. We're about to launch round 2. So the projects that weren't successful in round 1 can bid into round 2. Obviously, I'd encourage them to sharpen their pencils and put in better bids for round 2 to make sure that they make the grade. That's how a competitive process works. People put in good bids. Might be a great bid. Might not be the best bid the government's received. So therefore, you know, we have round 2 to let people have another crack.
Do you have a timeline on
I'll go here and then here.
Do you have a timeline on delivering the 4 new big batteries?
Yeah, 2027.
Just briefly about the election program. Sorry to bring it up again. I know you must have asked it a trillion times. But did you believe that you have actually achieved of cutting your promise of cutting electricity bill by more than $200? Federal election arrived. How do you explain the fact that the Liberal Party is going to keep running those negative ads? You don't give them the right answer.
I'm not in the habit of explaining what the Liberal Party is doing because that would be a very hard job. They have no consistency, no internal logic to the positions they claim. I mean, look at gas, for example. They're out there saying, you know, they have a gas policy. Well, they don't. What we've done is deliver. You know, yesterday was the East Coast gas statement of opportunities, which showed that the gas shortages that were going to be as early as this year are now delayed to 2028, 2029 because of strong government action, because of the work that Minister King's done, because of the work we've all done in the gas code of conduct, for example, which has seen 600 petajoules brought into the system. So that's what real policy hard work means. Now, again, it can be in a difficult circumstance with global energy prices, which we've always acknowledged. You know, modelling in 2021 and 2020 said one thing. We've been dealing with different international circumstances since, but this fundamental truth hasn't changed. More renewable energy means cheaper energy. More renewable energy means more reliable energy. There hasn't been a day in the last 2 years where I and state ministers haven't been dealing with a coal-fired power station breaking down somewhere in our grid. That's not reliable. You can see how much renewable energy we have on a day like today. With the right storage, which is what we're doing today, we're going to keep going. We're going to stay the course. Mr Dutton doesn't actually really have a policy or a plan. All he's got is cheap talking points which don't make any sense.
Did you deliver power? Did you deliver that reduction?
Oh, we're not making claims that we can't back up. But we are saying we're going to keep going with the plan of reducing more cheap, reliable energy. Mr Dutton will cap renewable energy at 54%. On the last quarter of last year, we're at 46. He wants to stop at 54. That means basically stopping projects that have reached final investment decision today. That is not the right plan for Australia. So I look forward to that contest at the next election. You're asking about the election, fair enough. There'll be a real contest. On our side, we believe climate change is real. There are enough climate deniers in 2025 in the Federal Liberal and National Party to stop climate action. Their plan will see 2 billion tonnes more of carbon. 2 billion tonnes more of carbon as they keep coal in the grid for longer while they wait for a nuclear fantasy to come online. That's the key difference. Australian people have a real choice at this election when it comes to climate and energy. A party of government which believes in climate change, believes it's real and believes action is necessary, and also to reduce prices and to see more of the cheaper, more reliable energy in the grid, or the party that doesn't really believe in climate change, has a nuclear fantasy which will cost $600 billion, take decades to build, see 2 billion more tonnes of carbon in the air and lead to a more unreliable energy system with blackouts. That's the choice.
Minister, I understand several offshore wind developers pulled out of the federal government's WA project. Do you have any insight into that? Is that disappointing? Do you know why
That's not the case. I'm pleased to confirm we've received 4 bids for the offshore wind zone off Bunbury. 4 is a good number. They are all current and live and before me. I haven't made a decision about which bid or bids we will support yet. There's a process that I'm well advanced on, but not finalised. I'm pleased with the level of interest. 4 bids is a good number of bids. It shows strong interest in Western Australian offshore wind. Offshore wind, I understand it's not without some controversies, and there's people with genuine concerns which we work through. Hence, I reduced the area to take into account the concerns. Work closely with Don Punch and listen to his concerns that he was raising on behalf of the community. There's also disinformation out there about offshore wind, but four bids shows strength, and this is vital because the Western Australian economy and heavy industry is growing so fast and so rapidly. Western Australia needs more electricity and needs a lot more by 2040. And offshore wind will play a vital role in helping Western Australia create that electricity.
Oceanics has pulled out of a plan to build push projects here in Western Australia,
Right.
and they've said it's probably easy to consolidate and go into projects on the east coast there. It's increasing doubts over the viability of offshore wind, particularly in Western Australia here. Even the WA Premier has said it's far from a priority here in Western Australia, given the additional costs and all the problems that come with it when you've got lots of space for solar and onshore wind. Are you ready to admit, particularly here in WA, that it's just a bit of a pipe dream?
Well, I've just announced that we've had 4 bids. Now, Oceanex didn't bid, but 4 other people did.
They pulled out.
Well, 4 other very serious international firms are bidding to operate offshore wind in Western Australia. Not all 4 will get support. There's not room for all 4. I will decide which bid or bids provides the best option for Western Australia.
What do you think when you see the WA Premier say it's far from a priority? Well, Premier, do you want to say,
Yeah, sure.
You've said that this is so far down the track of priorities for WA. What do you have to say to Mr. Bowen who's pushing it?
Well, look, fundamentally, this is an offshore wind farm, so that comes under the purview of the Commonwealth. I've got no opposition to offshore wind. I think it's going to be an important part of our overall energy mix. But Western Australia has large tracts of land, which, from a Western Australian government point of view, we will, as the regulatory authority associated with that land, obviously be focused on that. But we've got absolutely no objection to offshore wind farms, and they're going to be an important part of what we do. We know that offshore wind wind power generation has a much more reliable fuel profile, and so from that perspective we know that it's going to be an important part of building out the resilience of the grid. We had a consultation process in terms of the proposed offshore wind area. That consultation was then responded to by the Commonwealth for a small area further offshore. That's an appropriate response to that consultation. I'm excited that the Minister has today confirmed that there are 4 bids in there, because that's going to be an important part of what we do as part of decarbonising and our industry in the southwest. Don't forget, this power is going to come from offshore directly into the southwest grid. We don't have to share it with anyone. It's going to be WA electricity, and that's going to be an important part of continuing to build out our renewable energy resource base. Did you want to come back? Yes, sir.
Is that a priority? Do you see that kind of offshore wind as a bigger priority to some land-based options?
Well, I'm just trying to clarify what you mean by a priority, because we are the regulatory authority in terms of land-based wind generation, the approvals and things like that. The Commonwealth undertake the approval processes in relation to offshore wind.
What do you see coming online first?
Well, it's self-evident that the engineering around an onshore wind power generation project is much more simple than an offshore wind power generation project. So we expect to see a proliferation of onshore wind and solar projects taking shape over the next 5 to 10 years. The announcement today around the Murchison project, can we please be really clear? This is a significant project, and I've been talking to you all over a period of time around our building out of our green energy corridor into the Midwest. I've been talking to you about the incredible potential of wind and solar power generation in the Midwest and what it will do in terms of hydrogen production, green ammonia production, but also in terms of feeding into the southwest grid. So this is an exciting announcement today. It's a giant step forward as part of our green energy, clean energy transition.
Premier,
Thanks. Do you want to
either way is fine.
a bit more chat to Chris?
You get
He's
the
only
Premier
here
every
for a
day.
few hours.
Yeah.
Have a
Minister,
go.
both yourself and the Premier have spoken sort of emissions reduction of this project you've announced today and some others. Do you think it's time for WA to set its own emissions reduction target?
I work with all the states on all their ambitions. I support every state minister in the work that they're doing. I support Labor and Liberal ministers, frankly, in the work that they're doing. Our Energy Ministers Council works very well together. I don't tell states how to do their job. When states, in matters that they're responsible for, when a state minister comes to me with an issue or a problem, I do my best to help them. And I don't lecture from Canberra about what the right fit is for any particular state. Perth is different to Brisbane, Western Australia is different to New South Wales. Everyone's dealing with different circumstances. Western Australia, I'll be very frank, Western Australia is a hard state to decarbonise. When you've got the great swathes of area in the Pilbara to cover, when you've got the heavy industry there, we're working together. We committed $3 billion to rewiring the nation for Western Australia. That's not a small amount of money. The projects we're announcing today will help in that decarbonisation journey. How the Western Australian government lays out its plans is entirely a matter for the Premier and the Minister. I will support them in those plans.
It must make it harder to navigate reaching your targets, though,
No.
when the state government doesn't have a clear target.
Not really, because I've got, there's states with different targets across the country. Victoria has a different target to New South Wales, with different circumstances. I deal with it. That's how the Federation is meant to work. The Commonwealth plays an overall role, a coordinating role, a role for the things we're constitutionally responsible for different parts of the journey, but we're all on the same journey. We're all driving towards a net zero economy. That's what we're doing. And different states will have different paths to get there because of the different circumstances. I don't lecture them about that from Canberra. We get on with it.
How were the 4 sites chosen for big batteries?
A tender process. We had 27 bids. A tender process went through in great detail through AEMO services, the best value for money, including, as I said, community benefit. We make no apologies for saying we want communities that host to benefit, and that's one of the criteria. And then we announced the successful projects out of that very exhaustive tender. That's why it takes a while to run through that process.
With that,
To clarify, was it operational by 2027 or construction to start?
Well, we want construction to start virtually immediately and to be producing by 2027.
with that technology moving so quickly, is there any danger for communities and companies getting in now, or?
You mean battery technology? No, look, I don't see it that way. I see it more optimistically. The Premier and I were chatting before about how fast this is moving. You remember all the big controversy about the South Australian battery back in 2016, how it was one of the biggest batteries in the world at that point. It's now one of the smallest batteries in Australia. That's how fast this moves. I don't see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing. And the Premier was telling me when they announced the Collie battery it was going to be one of the biggest in the world, and now it's not even the biggest battery in Collie. That's strength. That's a positive thing. I don't think we sit around and say, oh, this is all moving too fast. We say it's moving faster, let's get in. Let's get on with it. Let's not delay till the 2040s and wait for a technology that's expensive and slow to build.
Minister, would you like to see a decision on the North West Shelf expansion before the election?
Minister King might want to add to this remark, but you're referring, of course, in relation to Mr Dutton's announcement. This just shows why he's not fit to be Prime Minister, this bloke. He just doesn't get it. He's learnt nothing from the disaster of the Morrison government. I remember PEP 11, Minister King will remember PEP 11, where Scott Morrison so stuffed up the process, it was overturned in a court, and this government had to come and fix it up because they showed a apprehended bias in announcing a decision before proper process. That's what Peter Dutton did yesterday. He would rip up proper process as Prime Minister, all for a political announcement, and he's endangering the process as a result, whether it's an approval or a disapproval. He's endangering it by playing politics with it. Just shows that he's not fit for the job. Madeline might want to.
There's no doubt the North West Shelf is a really important project for the development of Western Australia and therefore the whole country. But what Western Australians expect, and of course all Australians expect, is good government and good government processes. And what we are seeing now, and the decision came to the federal sphere in December, is the department and Minister Plibersek going through those proper processes. And for Peter Dutton to come out in the last couple of days with his statements is moronic, thoughtless, and frankly just stupid. Furthermore, it's reckless. It endangers any future decision that might be made in relation to this North West Shelf expansion, because, as Minister Bowen says, it introduces an idea of apprehended bias, that he has made a decision before he's looked at the evidence. And that is, quite frankly, the worst thing a minister can do or a government could seek to do. And that's what we will not do. Minister Plibersek and her department will go through what is an extraordinary amount of documentation accumulated over a long time for a really significant project, and it will be done thoughtfully, respectfully, and in accordance with the law. That's all Minister Plibersek is doing.
Is there any concern, Minister, that if Labor aren't seen to kind of match that commitment to fast-track an approval, you guys could be accused of being anti-gas by the coalition of Leave votes here in WA?
Yeah, well, not at all. Last year I released a future gas strategy, which for the first time any government in this country set out the role gas will play in our transition to net zero and how it will assist our regional neighbours to transition to net zero by 2050. So, you know, clearly we have gone, these processes are efficient, and in fact we have sped up, that we've doubled the amount of projects that have gone through. We've also halved the time of these approvals processes because we've invested in the public service to actually do the work, whereas under the Scott Morrison government they cut the public service, and Peter Dutton wants to do that again, and that's only going to slow down approvals. So I reject any assertion that the federal government does not support gas. We've really clearly laid out the role it plays in our economy, both the Western Australian one, of course, right around the country. Okay.
All right, that's been a pretty. Yes, we've had a pretty good go. So, any final burning questions?
Great.
Great. Thank you.
Look, can I just say it's great to have Chris Bowen here. It's a really good example of how you have the state and federal governments working together on an issue of national significance. Compare this to a situation where you'd see a Liberal government at the federal level. It'll be a disaster. It'll be a disaster for our environment, it'll be a disaster for our economy. Particularly if you look at the nuclear power fantasy that Peter Dutton has been prosecuting. Quite frankly, they represent a risk to Western Australian economy, the Western Australian environment and WA jobs. Any questions?
What do these announcements today mean for reliability? I think that, like, at every big battery announcement, people hear that it supplies 600,000 homes for 4 hours. They wonder what happens in hour 5. What assurance can you give them?
So that's one of the reasons why gas will continue to play an important role in firming our electricity grid. But as you see the proliferation of energy storage projects taking place right across the southwest grid, you understand how they play an ongoing role in terms of longer term discharge over the course of the evening. And during the election campaign, we announced our important $150 million investment in a vanadium battery out in Kalgoorlie. Now, vanadium, as opposed to these lithium-ion-based battery systems, are very long discharge over about 8 hours, so they too will play an important role to ensure that while the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow, particularly in the course of an evening, that you have this ongoing discharge of energy which is being stored up over the course of the day.
But it's not ongoing after 4 hours.
Well, no, so it is. So what you'd have, for instance, is the Kwinana big battery discharging over the first 4 hours, and as that starts to run down, then you'll bring another battery bank on. So it's a matter of orchestrating all these energy storage projects to ensure that you've got consistent supply throughout the course of the day.
Will there be enough by 2030 to take over from coal and ensure that continuity of supply?
Look, we are very confident that we'll have energy stability in our southwest grid by 2030 to ensure that we can get out of coal. There's two reasons for that. One, because Western Australia has a reliable source of gas, which is an important firming fuel in terms of the overall electricity system. But two, because we are confident of the number of renewable projects that are either in planning, construction and commissioning phases today. And we, of course, you'll see the building out of our whole transmission system to ensure that not only do WA households benefit from the clean energy transition, but companies can decarbonise their industrial processes, and you can see a decarbonisation of the overall Western Australian economy. Now, there's a lot of work to be done. We understand that, and we'll continue to do that. But you're already starting to see, as part of our program, coal-fired power stations being switched off today. We switched off one in September last year. Ultimately, it will be retired permanently in April or next month, and that program will continue.
The Greens would like your government to backdate the rebate and the low interest loan scheme for home batteries. Is that something you consider?
Look at this. We addressed this issue during the election campaign, and as I said, we have two ambitions. One, that we can bring this program on sooner than the 1st of July, if that is possible. And two, to continue to work with the industry to understand their pressures at the moment while they wait for the scheme to get up. But let's be honest here. The industry is about to enjoy the biggest injection of revenue and commercial activity they've ever seen. And they are about to be on the cusp of an extraordinary period of growth as WA households take advantage of our household battery scheme and really enjoy the benefits, not only of rooftop solar, but of home-based battery storage, and therefore they also get around about a $1,500 a year bonus or cut to their electricity bills.
On the battery,
Yeah, sure.
is that like a bit of an attempt or a move towards waning off public ongoing energy subsidies? Is that
No, not at all. I want to be really clear in relation to this. Now, everyone tends to write off rooftop solar. What we know is at the moment the proliferation of rooftop solar in WA households represents the equivalent of 2 new small gas-fired power stations a year. It is a significant grid-scale project in its own right. But the opportunity to plug a lot of WA households into our southwest grid through either standalone battery storage or battery storage which is integrated into the grid itself represents a significant opportunity to continue to build out the stability, reliability and the resilience of our southwest grid. Of course, what it does as well is it gives Western Australian households an opportunity to back themselves and make sure that they enjoy immediate savings in terms of their electricity bills, but also to be part of the great clean energy revolution which is taking over our state.
Premier, what did you make of the front page of Prosh yesterday? Was it funny?
I didn't see the front page of Prosh. I remember when I was in high school and university, I used to think it was the funniest thing in the world. Perhaps I'm getting a bit old and jaded, and nowadays I find the jokes maybe a little bit young for me. But I understand that there was a comment in relation to the Prime Minister or President of Israel, Netanyahu, yesterday, which caused offence. And I understand that the Student Guild at UWA decided to issue an apology. That is the appropriate response.
Is satire too dangerous a proposition nowadays?
Well, what we do know is that political satire has its place in the world. We do know that when it lands in the middle of a time of heightened anxiety and tensions, that it often falls flat. Maybe it fell flat yesterday.
Premier, you talked about the benefits for households and consumers with the transition and increasing renewables. What about Synergy? It's obviously going through some difficult financial times. What are the implications for Synergy?
Oh, look, Synergy is a government trading enterprise. They're responsible for undertaking their activities on a commercial basis, unless the government decides otherwise. Now, our overall energy grid is significantly subsidised by the government. That includes the tariffs to ensure that people living in regional WA paying the same tariffs as people living in the metropolitan area. It includes making sure that the overall impact of power prices does not negatively impact households and businesses. So they will continue to be subsidised in the normal manner of events.
The WAEC is still counting.
Yep.
I think Albany and Warren Blackwood today. Churchlands was resolved yesterday, but it's really left the opposition in particular in limbo. I mean, is it frustrating?
Well, look, we're all frustrated by the speed of the count, and we're all anticipating the outcome of the election. We want to get those votes counted as quickly as possible, and the WAEC, I know, are doing their best, and we very much look forward to seeing the results so we can get on. I mean, the swearing in of the government took place yesterday. That would ordinarily have been last Wednesday. So we're all a bit frustrated by that, but we're very much looking forward to seeing the results resolved over the coming days and weeks.
Christine Tonke conceded last night. Are you expecting Basil Zempilas to be the new Liberal leader?
Well, that's a question for the Liberal Party, and I'll leave it up to them to make that decision. Christine did a great job. I think you all wrote her off. I think a lot of people wrote her off. And we all saw how Basil Zemplis's campaign fell flat.
Premier, did you
One
write
because of the arrogance that the Liberal Party treated the people of Churchlands, and two, because of the great work that Christine Tonkin did as a local member.
Did you write Christine Tonkin off, Premier? We didn't see you have any appearances with her during the campaign or anything of that sort. It was quite close in the end. Did you miss it there?
No, I actually launched her campaign. We were involved in the Churchlands campaign, and when I was there, what I saw right across the room were a whole range of community activists and people involved in the Churchlands community supporting Christine, because they know what a great job she did supporting them to continue to make Churchlands a great place to live.
Inspired homes.
Yep.
You said you'll be working with the ministry, but you also kind of said they're about to get a big injection. Is that your light way of saying suck it up into these rebates?
No, it's about saying, look, we understand that they're struggling at the moment because there will be a period of time until our household battery scheme comes into play. But then we obviously know that they'll be very busy. And they'll need workers, they'll need people to continue to deal with the demand that will come from our household battery arrangements.
Inspired Homes customers met with yourself
Yes.
and Tony Butcher yesterday. What is your government going to do for that group?
Well, in the very first instance, I undertook to write to the Commonwealth and ASIC directly to ascertain the solvency of Inspired Homes. It would appear that Inspired Homes continues to delay and push away a whole range of deadlines, some of them deadlines that were imposed by the courts. So we really have to ask a serious question around the capacity of Inspired Homes to build their houses. Now, we're assured by Inspired Homes that they are solvent. So if that's the case, I urge them, and I'm saying it again, please finish those people's homes. They've signed contracts with you in good faith, some as far back as September 2020. Please finish those homes, get them done, let these people get on with their lives and get a roof over their heads.
Have you had comments from them? Have you spoken directly?
No, I haven't spoken directly.
I've got two more.
Sure, that's right.
New population figures out today, up 1.7% nationally, but 2.5% in WA. Is it sustainable?
Oh, look, we know that people want to come and live in Western Australia. It's because we've got an amazing economy where this is an incredible place to live. And we want to welcome people to WA to be part of this great WA family and the great economic engine room powerhouse that we are. But that obviously puts pressure on. It puts pressure on housing, it puts pressure on schools, it puts pressure on hospitals as people come here and enjoy the benefits of living in our great community. That's why we invest so heavily in these infrastructure, these services to continue to make WA the greatest state in Australia to live. I love saying that in front of a federal minister.
Not as happy a question,
Oh, okay.
but a 14-year-old kid got off scot-free for assaulting a police officer. Isn't that the point of mandatory sentencing? And it also was the point behind your election promise for a tougher sentencing of social media boasting.
Yep.
That was an example that was used during the campaign in that case. When will those laws come online, and does courts need to get on board?
We'll bring those laws in as soon as possible. But can I just say that I was disgusted by the activities of those young people, and the fact that they would assault a police officer, as the police commissioner said. An assault on a police officer is an assault on our society. They stand up for the values of social order, community safety. If you attack a copper, you're attacking everyone. And so I welcome the decision by the police commissioner, to work with the director of public prosecutions to see if we can appeal that particular sentence. It seems light on, and I don't think meets the pub test, and I don't think it meets community expectations.
Is it a worry for you at a time when you're trying to recruit more officers from overseas interstate that you have an incident like this that's so high profile, so shocking, and there are no consequences in our court system?
Well, we know that the police department at the moment is looking at a very large number of applications for people to come and work with the men and women in blue. They know that it's a great police force, a very effective one, and that the police force can provide them with all manner of experiences, both career and in life. So it's a great job, it's an amazing career, but it's a tough job. It's a tough job. They work on the front line every day of the week. sometimes in some very confronting and personally dangerous situations, and we thank them for the work they do.
Great.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Right? No, not at all.